Okay, so we'll be talking about debunking myths about voting.
So our thing was my vote doesn't matter. Well, basically it does matter because a single vote can determine our future, and it's very critical right now because if everyone had this mindset, there would be no point in voting and one party would always win anyways. And there have been many times where a single vote decided the future of the election, like Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump's election.
Some ways you can, what things you can do if you don't have a ride to the polls, you can just call an Uber. And the second thing you could do is just fill out some online forms to vote. Third one is you can just call someone to carpool with. And then the fourth one is absentee voting. I think it's like when you can vote by mail.
So we talked about how people feel that they don't resonate with the candidate's political values, and this can be fixed by voting. Because if you don't vote, then the person that you believe represents your candidate or your party isn't likely to become a candidate. And there are more than just the two major political parties, which means that there are other smaller parties that may fit your beliefs.
So we put that there is a difference between population and electoral vote. So basically, individual votes make a difference. So going back to the fact that every vote can count in this election.
So my group addressed the myth the candidates aren't qualified. We listed some of the prerequisites to run for presidential office. You have to be a natural-born U.S. citizen, a permanent resident for at least 14 years, and be at least 35 years old. And a candidate must be elected by their party, so they have some sort of qualification to them. And usually both candidates have previous experiences, and that's the president and vice president.
Our group explored the myth that people not knowing a lot about politics, but it's important to realize that regardless of what you know about like the general state of politics, like the eventual outcome of the election still can have an effect on your life or even the community around you. And it's fairly easy to gather information about like politics and political candidates, especially with the internet and social media. So you should use that to try to know more about your political candidates.
So we did the excuse that politics are too messy, and then it doesn't have to be messy because you can just have civil discourse between opposing parties if where people can respect each other. And also by voting the messy environment, and by not voting it'll like stay the same or get worse. So you should just try to understand both sides of voting. And also politics, it is pretty messy because there is fake news and propaganda. So by actively searching for reliable and just better news sources, you can make it less messy.
So our group covered slide 8, which is I'm too busy. So the thing about this is that now voting has gotten really sophisticated to the extent where you can vote even at home. And this is called voting by mail. So you can sign up and the vote will come in, and if I heard, the process is actually really simple. Another reason to not say I'm too busy is that this will really affect how you do your job or your education because of who your president is. Let's say your president decides to drastically change the education system. Then whatever you're learning could be completely different than what you're going to learn. So whether if you're too busy or not, it can really affect how you do within the next 4 years of your life. And in addition, to say I'm too busy is like the equivalent of saying like this homework assignment is like due tomorrow. I guess, but I'm too busy, so I guess I'll just, wait till the very last minute. You have to realize that we're electing the very next leader of our nation, and by saying I'm too busy is like completely disregarding the fact that you're going to change the future. So that's why the concept of I'm too busy is a little weak.
Voting right now decides so much in the future. One vote might not seem like a lot, but your one vote can make or break our future generations. So make sure they hear your voice and vote.
Voting matters because it affects our lives in the long run, and it impacts how our education system goes and also the economy, which is really important for us.
So voting is important because the president that we elect will be leading our nation into a path that he or she envisions, but it'll also be impactful for future generations because their policies and legislation would have a lasting impact even past their term.
I think we should all take a vote for this election because we're literally the future of America. We're gonna regret it so much if you don't take a vote for whoever we believe is the right person. It doesn't matter if they win or not, it's just we're gonna have a huge impact on the voting this year because kids can also be involved.
Voting is very important in this 2020 election because every vote counts, and the results can definitely change according to your vote. And not only can it change the future, but it can change the generation and the future of our country will face.
It's important to vote because it's your right and you deserve a voice in this country.
Voting is important because everyone should be concerned about their country's progress and leaders, as well as how their country will turn out for future generations.
Your vote matters. Your vote could be the one that either gives or takes from your job and your opportunities in the next 4 years. So make sure to vote this year, and your voice matters.
So as crazy as the election is, it's really important that you vote because even if our president is crazy, it's still going to severely affect the next 4 years of your life. So it's really important to vote, so please vote.
Voting is important because it takes the future leader of a generation. No matter who the president's going to be, it is important for people to vote so that they have the right to live country and the current leadership is going to
Voting is important because it gives the American people a voice and a choice to improve their lives as well as their lives of their children. Voting is part of the principles that this nation was built upon, and we should honor the representative system that we have.
Hey guys, I'm Jesse, and make sure to vote this year. You may feel that your vote won't really count, but each vote counts, and it really determines who our next president will be. So make sure to go to the polls and vote for your candidate.
Voting is important because not only does it reflect on our society today and for the next few years, but also paves the path for future generations, and the decisions that were made in this election can essentially impact the future of the younger generation and of their voices.
Voting is a really important part of American society because it influences our future generations and our many aspects of our lives, such as education, social security, and healthcare.
Voting is important because you're determining the state of our nation, not only for yourselves, but for future generations. Also, it's an opportunity to use your voice and create change.
Voting matters because you are voicing your own opinion, and we are setting an example to the next generation. And these next steps will determine the foundation of education, healthcare, climate change, and certain rights.